So welcome to another wargame review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And tonight we're taking a look at Cataclysm, a Second World War, and this is from GMT Games. It's designed by Scott Muldoon and...
William Turtoslavich.
Yes!
Okay. I probably butchered it, but I think that's right.
A long time ago, when we first started the blog, this was one of your first designer interviews that you did.
2.5 years ago.
So it had been on our radar for a really long time. This finally came out this year, and we finally got it played. I've been playing with the rules, clipping the counters for a long time.
Well, we say got it played. We only did really the intro.
Yeah, we did
scenario.
C2, which is it's 1937 to 1941, 42 basically. So this is kind of like an introductory review. Later on down the line, you'll probably see a much bigger review of this with the whole big game, all the experience. So we just wanted to talk a few kind of initial thoughts from the mechanics and what you can expect from this game. We played through that whole first scenario, start to finish. We used the playbook, and the playbook in this game is really big. It's got a ton of helpful advice just to get you started with. That interview that Grant did is actually in that playbook.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. But there's a ton of scenarios that are all laid out in there, but there's this huge, and I mean huge, like 15, 20 pages of an extended example of play, where this scenario that we did, they literally go from start to finish, kind of walk you through what could happen. It's like the full game, an example of it. It's pretty interesting. We followed that for like the first turn.
Yeah.
By which point we knew all the rules, and then we just kind of did our own thing. We didn't follow the rest of the playbook in that instance.
Yeah, we just did it to really get a feel for the system.
Yeah, and what
really a learning game.
And I would recommend that, because the game, it's got a lot of stuff to it, and it can seem a little bit daunting, but it's really not that bad. But playing through the playbook, which is what the designers recommend, and doing that little example of play, it shows you all mechanics that you could come across in the game, and you get to see it all and see how a turn should flow, what to expect from it. And I think that's really cool.
Well, I think the thing I would say about this game right off the bat, from doing that, I think overall the game mechanically is not really that challenging.
No.
I think what happens is there's a lot of minutia about those different elements, depending on what conditions are out. Like, what was the first one? Status quo.
Yeah.
Is that out? Because then the Allies, Britain and France in this scenario, can only do certain things. Has war been declared? Has, this happened? And I just think there's a lot of those, what if this has happened, kind of do this. But I felt like, at first I felt a little overwhelmed, but we were really working through that. But by the end of that, probably the second turn, to me it was very structured on how it should work.
Yeah. There's
a lot of actions available. When you have your flags, you can do political actions, which include, my goodness, about 6 or 8 different things.
Yes.
You can move some men around, you can politically influence a territory, you can
influence a civil war.
Yeah.
You can give your actions to other people.
Players, which I tried to do one time.
You can form alliances, a ton of stuff.
So there's a lot of really cool things, but the sequence of play, and I think the player aid is very good.
You got bifold, and there's a couple of these in the game, so you're not sharing them too badly.
But then you have to go to the rule book, I think, to get the level of detail on the rules to really understand it. But overall, I think this game appears to be a challenge.
But it is not.
But I don't believe mechanically, and once you get into it, I think for those that have played war games, it's going to start to feel very familiar. You made a comment that I thought was really, this is not necessarily a direct, specific war game. What did you say about it? You said it was...
because someone asked me, they were like...
And this is not a bad thing.
No, they were saying, should I do Unconditional Surrender or should I do Cataclysm? And to me, whilst they cover a similar topic,
And they both have the political
yeah,
struggle of it.
but they're both entirely different. And to me, Unconditional Surrender is like a war game.
Right.
Hexes, counters, I'm moving around, doing these combats. This is its grand strategy.
Right.
This is, you're worrying about your economy, you're worrying about politics, and the battles and the minor operations and things
Are secondary.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
You're looking at huge lines of supply, moving units around. This is more to me of an economic game,
Right.
because you have to be able to support your war efforts.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, you're never going to win.
Right.
And I mean, the game starts in 1933. So you get all this pre-war jockeying for politics, carving up the Balkans,
Which you would use almost this entire bag.
Yeah.
We didn't use a lot of these. There's about 8 on the board, but yeah, we would have used a lot more of those.
And then there's you do the Pacific
Theater.
as well. That's upside down, isn't it? So in here, throughout that whole time, Chinese Civil War's going on. The Japanese are arming. They're positioning themselves to invade the Philippines.
The U.S. are building up to come into the war. They didn't get into, obviously until later.
And a lot of it is that the Allies, with their kind of appeasement policies, letting things slide. Russians fighting kind of in the... I'm pretty sure they fight in Manchuria, things like that. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of stuff in this game, but a lot of it is economy and politics based.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You have the war, but I move my guys in, we roll a couple d6s.
Yeah.
Kind of that's what it is.
I mean, what I would say is this is more a Euro-based war game, mainly because it has wooden cubes.
Yeah, but it's area control, right?
Right.
When I influence that area, I put my cube there. Boom, it's mine.
It's not necessarily hex and counter. It's zones of control don't exist, etc. So, but I once again really liked it. I enjoyed and we played it for about 4 hours, 3.5 hours. But that was learning rules too.
Yes, and there's a lot of rules, right? It's got a hefty rule book and it's got a hefty playbook.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna I learned my lesson. When we played Pericles the first time, where we were just like, let's read the rules and play the game.
Just play the
terrible idea
scenario that's set up to teach you.
The playbook is there to teach you the game the easiest possible way, and this is one of the few times we've actually done that. And it was like, yes, it was really, really accessible. And like you said, at first it was like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm a little bit lost. Kind of looking
why
at the
did that
rules.
happen? And yeah.
But after we were doing it, it was like, it's easy. This game is not complex. I don't feel like this is a complex game.
No, it doesn't mean it's not deep and doesn't have some good strategy, but it's overall you just follow the sequence of play and you kind of do your actions.
And again, back to the play aid, all the political actions right here.
Yeah.
All the military actions right here.
Yep.
Here's the combat sequence. Everything is right there. If a country collapses, here it is. If it surrenders, here it is. This is really, really easy, especially once you're kind of semi-familiar with the rules. Everything is right there.
What I would say about that playbook, and you were reading through it, I felt like a couple of times it said do something, and there wasn't a lot of... I felt like they could have just added an extra sentence to give a little more understanding. Once again, we're doing that to learn it.
Yeah.
Tell me why this flag went away, or what? I can't think of a good example.
No, but it would say Germany gains a flag into reserves. Italy gains a flag into the cup when they were provoked.
And explain why that happened.
Yeah.
And the reason the one went into the cup was because Italy
already
had a flag in their holding box.
Yes.
Right? Because you can't have 2 of those.
And that clarifying sentence wasn't there.
It would have taught us more.
So we were like, why is that happening?
Yeah.
And
so I felt like that was something that they could have just, once again, one more sentence, and I think it would have helped the learning, the grasping of that concept.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just following blind to okay, here's what
we'll do this. Yeah.
And then we'd go and look at the rules and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I understand now. But that's part of that learning process. So once again, simple game, chit pull, right?
Yes.
This is a chit pull game.
No hidden information. excellent Solitaire game. I will be playing this solo for that reason.
You can play this solo. Yep.
Always fun because you get the chaos.
Yeah.
And that's something that they talked about in the rules. They're like, you have to surrender control to the game.
Because you can't control it.
What you're trying to do is you're trying to get as much into the cup as possible.
Yep.
Or
to increase your odds of getting your stuff first.
Doing your stuff.
Yep.
There's a couple bits and pieces that you can specifically control with those interrupts where you can, before we pull any actions, you go in like this ineffectiveness order, like the Germans can say, okay, here's my one thing I can definitely 100% absolutely do right now.
And I'll give you a good example of how that works. I thought that was really fortuitous for me. So we're in the final year. We had been fighting over the Spanish Civil War for 3 turns, right? And we kept going back and forth. We tied our roll, I think. Didn't we do it twice?
The first one was,
anyway, we were fighting over it, and I had a flag with
you had
with the British.
Was a British offensive.
So I put that British offensive into a support because there was no support from Italy or Germany.
Yeah.
And because I put that in there, and I was hoping, and I thought to myself, never going to happen. There were 20 chits in there. But literally, I think it was the second.
It was the very next chit.
The next chit drawn was the Civil War, which gave me a leg up. And I was able to win that and gain a bonus. Now, I was never able to capitalize on that because the game ended again because of a chit draw.
But it prevented me from getting it right.
Right, because that was worth a victory point. At least a victory point. So that's a great example of this game is really chaotic. It's very difficult to plan, but you can use your chits to kind of manipulate this cup and make it so that, if this happens now, it's going to be better for me because I did this.
Yeah.
So I really like that. We generally love chit pull games because it does replicate Fog of War and knowledge.
You get this, I got to make the best, I got to make do with what I got.
Yeah.
And trying to make the best out of...
lemonade out of lemons.
I did not need this right now.
Right.
But it's either wasted, right? So you got to I got to do something with it. So sometimes you find yourself, well, maybe I'll do this other thing that you weren't planning on doing and that could open up some other opportunities.
Yeah.
That it's really cool. But all in all, I was surprised at how simple the game is mechanically. Yeah. But how much strategy and decision there is.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what makes a good game to me is that it's the rules are there to support your decision making and strategy.
Yeah.
Because as random as the chip pull is and the dice can be, this is a pretty wide open game.
Oh, it's a sandbox.
And
it really is.
a lot of options to kind of do a lot of different bits and pieces.
Yeah. So the other thing I really enjoyed about our play, typically in World War II games, Germany crushes France, right? Immediately. We really had to fight over that for several turns because I politically influenced Benelux, and you had to attack Lorraine, where I had built up a good defense, and the rolls just didn't go your way.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucked. You weren't in a position with your commitment level to get 2 activations yet, because you could have done the thing where you got a bonus +1. That would have been nice. You did it at the end, but it still didn't work.
Yeah, the first one I declared war, and you get that free activation, but it...
Well, I ended up winning air superiority.
And then I just my tanks that I had.
Yeah, and then I just rolled well, and so I repulsed you, I think, twice. So France never fell, which was fascinating to me. And really, at this point, they're kind of stronger than Britain. They don't have a lot of options. They don't have one destroyed unit to build.
Right.
But it was fascinating to me how that ended up working out. Now, in the scenario we played, you couldn't build a lot of units. They gave you a very limited pool.
Well, and a lot of it started on the board pretty early on, and you were supposed to kind of smash,
But once again, learning scenario. I did notice as you moved up on the commitment, your force pool increased a little bit.
Yeah, you get more and more units available.
So that was one thing we didn't necessarily get very far in, but are you able to pull 4 units of the type you want? Like for instance, Germany goes from 12 to 16. Just curious, we need to look that up because that was something. Sure. So we're able to pull out 4 more infantry or another. That's interesting. So that's a way you got to move more towards mobilization and war.
Yeah,
to get more.
We kept talking pretty low right until the end when I started declaring war, and I'm like, okay, but this is one way. Just play it honestly, get it, put it out, setting it up, and just feeling the game out, and it kind of opens itself.
You're going to have to do that. It's like diving in a cold pool.
Yeah,
if you dip your toe in and you put your leg in, and you're just going to freeze, just jump in. And just do it.
But in these type of games, some of the rules can seem abstract as you're reading them. But when you see it on the board, you're like,
makes more sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah. Like what's garrisoned and ungarrisoned versus controlled and uncontrolled. Yeah. What does that mean? Should I do an influence there with politics and diplomacy, or should I march a guy in there and attack it? What's the difference between those two? What does that look like? How does that affect the board? But that's what I like about this game, is that every action you do causes something else to happen.
Right.
I think they did a great job of, I attack and invade this, and there's a provocation.
Yeah.
Almost any time you do anything, the other side
gets a benefit.
Gets a flag, or gets, which is a benefit, which they can then do something else with. So there's a lot of back and forth with how things go. That's something I think is awesome because you get a lot of flux in the game.
Yeah.
And you're never totally out of it.
And I liked that. There's another part about that I liked. When you provoke, if they don't have any available flags, they're not going to get a benefit.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, when you were putting all your flags into the cup, I was like, oh, I can provoke because he's not going to get. So I liked that economy or that decision. Do I provoke him now, or do I wait a turn when I know he's going to probably have flags? I better provoke him now.
Well,
not provoke him, but do something that provokes.
And compare that to earlier in the game, where we were doing a lot of provocation in the late part of the turn, where we had a ton of flags, and it kind of extends the turn for an extra 4 or 5 chip pulls as we kept having more cool stuff to play with. That was also really, really interesting, because you're like, oh, should I even do this? Because that's going to give you guys more stuff to do right now. So I don't have anything else to react with.
It's a decision to kind of manage that, to manage the damage, I guess, for lack of a better word. Overall, really enjoyable experience. I enjoyed this game and had a good time with it.
Yeah, this was what I was expecting it to be.
Okay.
And which is a very good thing. You had cool politics, a very, very high scale level game, right? This is an army.
Yeah, right.
It represents literally like...
That's my French army. Leave it alone, please.
Well, that's like Army Group North, this huge thing. The scale is just Axis and Allies level. Right. So you don't have a ton of crunch in the combat, but you have a ton of cool, tense decision-making with everything that you do. A lot of variety and richness. So I think that's kind of where we'll leave it for now. This has been more of an introduction to this game.
All right. We've got a lot more game to play.
Yes.
There's no doubt there.
This game can be played for how many? 200? How many hours?
I think on Board Game Geek it said, did it say 60 to 600 or 90 to 600 minutes? I mean, 600 minutes is 10 hours, right? And for us, we're notoriously slow. One, we get interrupted a lot. Two, we argue sometimes over rules and clarifications. But
it doesn't say on here. That's a bummer.
But yeah, BGG, it said like 90 to 600. So it can be a long game if you do both Pacific and European theater together, managing all of those. We didn't even have the Soviets in there.
Yeah.
Our scenario did not even deal with the Soviets.
And you can do it where if you had 2 maps, you can play with 6 people. You have the British, French, German, American, Japanese, Soviets.
Yeah.
By Germans, I mean Central Powers, Germans and Italians.
Right.
Maybe you can play it with 7 and the Italians would be separate.
I guess you could.
I think that's right. I
don't know how it was advertised, but
you can divvy it up, and in a full game, everyone would have enough to do.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone will be bored or left out.
Yeah. Well, and the only comment I would have, and we struggle with this. I always play the Allies, I feel like. Every Western Theater World War II game we play, I generally play the Allies, and I feel like more often than not, I don't have a lot to do. Right? I feel like I'm reacting to what the Germans are doing and the Italians.
Yeah.
So there is some of that in this game, but I still felt engaged because I was still worried about how can I use my flags effectively? How can I stop what you're doing? How can I, what's that called? Interrupt. You know, it still had some elements that really kept me engaged, and I like that. Now, if we were playing further, it would have started to get a lot hotter, a lot more action going on. But yeah, overall, very engaging game. Really enjoyed it.
So I had a blast playing this. Again, we'll do like a bigger review with more stuff later on.
After 600 minutes of playing.
Then, we'll kind of show you the map and the pieces and how it all works. Although there's a lot of good videos out there for that. So initially, though, having a blast playing this game. And I want to play more of it. And that's a good sign.
Yeah, I'd like to get this right back on the table now and go for a deeper scenario.
So appreciate you guys tuning in. This has been our kind of first look at Cataclysm, a Second World War from GMT Games. If you want to check out the channel, there's a ton of other stuff on here. And look for a kind of larger review of this coming later on. So thanks very much for tuning in.